to today's webinar. My name is Mikael Wallstedt, and I'm really happy to be one of your hosts today. Justin, maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I am Justin Clark. I'm Industry Marketing Manager for Transport and Logistics across Europe for Honeywell. And thank you, everybody, for joining. It's a delight to be speaking to you today.
Right. So before we really kick off, I really have to tell you what happened to me last night. You know, I had one of these evenings that was pretty stressful, and I actually had forgotten to do my grocery shopping that I actually had promised my wife to be doing. And since my children are on school holiday this week, and they are doing sports practice, tennis and athletics, they do eat a lot, and we really needed our groceries. What did I do? Well, I did use one of these apps and to be able to do some grocery shopping online. And a few hours later, the groceries arrived. And when the guy came, he just came with a big smile on his face. And he actually asked me if he can help me to carry in the groceries in my kitchen. This was a very small thing to him, but to me, this was a very, very good customer experience. And it really made my day. And I think this is what we're going to talk about for the next slides. So we're going to talk about the customer experience in the last mile delivery. It's a subject that I find very exciting. So once again, warmly welcome. We are 3 companies that are sponsoring and inviting to this session. The first one is the PocketMobile, which I'm working for myself, and our objective is really to help our logistic and retail companies to really create the optimal final mile and make their customers happy. Maybe Justin, you want to say a few words on Honeywell?
Yeah, so Honeywell, for those of you that know, probably have heard of us in terms of things like bathroom thermostats, etc. But actually, we're a lot bigger than that. We actually provide solutions that improve your business performance, and that includes everything from devices like handheld computers, mobile printers, through to voice. But we also now provide software solutions and things, platforms for data analytics as well, that really help us go into depth in your businesses and really help to understand what your challenges are and really help you drive efficiencies and improve customer service.
Super. And also, as being PocketMobile, we're part of a bigger group called Trimble. And one of our sister companies, Trimble MAPS. And Trimble MAPS is really the company that knows everything you need to know about mapping, route optimization, scheduling, and so on for transportation. They have impressive about over 25 global transportation customers. So, and we work, of course, all 3 very close together. Our objective today is really to dig deeper into the subject about customer experience in the last mile delivery. And to do that, we really need to first understand what the customer experience in last mile delivery is. So we need to have a definition. We need to see and understand more about what impact and what does it mean to us. And finally, we're going to share some ideas about use cases and how we can help and what you can actually do about it. The last mile delivery, as we define it, is really about transporting the goods from the terminal or the depot out to its final destination. The final destination might be one's home, it might be the retail store, or somewhere else where I really want to have my deliveries. To take them from the depot or under the roof, really out there to the stop, you can use the van, the trucks, the bicycles, or any other type of transportation media. Normally, as we see it, is that this is done via a driver that is driving around and have a number of stops where it does pickups, deliveries, and return handling. So that is in essence how we define the final mile delivery. Moving into today's topic about customer experience. And the tradition within transport and logistics is, of course, that efficiency is key. To be able to move things from A to B as fast as possible with as little resources as possible. However, how we do the delivery of the goods to the recipients is a totally another thing. And the way we do deliver does have impact on our feelings. And this is true not only for B2C, but also for B2B, while it may not be exactly the same as in home delivery. And as you can see on the picture, a late delivery may cause a lot of frustration, anger, while on the other side, a surprise delivery may create happiness. As we are a human being, feelings are, of course, very, very important to our lives. Moving on. Now, okay, we can make the conclusions that customer experience does have an impact and is important to us, but the key question is, of course, how important is this? What is the value of it? And this is an example taken from a totally another industry, coffee industry. And, if you take a coffee at home compared to taking a coffee at your burger restaurant or your favorite coffee shop, there's a huge price difference. In essence, it might actually be the exactly same coffee in the cup in all these three places, but the surroundings, the environment, the spirit is very different, and the feeling we get when we drink the coffee is different. And I would argue that there is a huge value in this. To understand more about the customer experience, one step to start is to understand what we call the customer journey, which is really the process from the purchase until you get the delivery. And quite often when we start to think about the customer journey, we start to think about the very linear process. I do my purchase, I do the payment, I get the delivery, pretty straightforward. But in reality, the purchase journey or the customer journey is pretty far from linear. Pretty often you do shop around, you look on different things, you check out ratings on different social media sites. You might even visit a physical store to check the shoes or whatever you are buying, and in the end you might buy 2 pairs and you might return one of them. So it's normally when you really dig into the customer journey, it's quite often a very complicated process. And when we talk about online shopping, it's very often that there's no human being involved. That doesn't give you the possibility to interact with one's feelings in the same way as you have in a physical store. Google has mounted this expression. They talk about 0 moment of truth, that the purchase decision is taken up to 70% before you even start to contact a salesperson. So that means that the physical interaction is more and more concentrated to the final part in the customer journey, which is the delivery part, whereas this is very, very important. So now we wanted to really ask you guys what you think about this. So we wanted to launch a live poll and to really see what has happened. The poll is now started. So we're going to give this 1 or 2 minutes so to see. And the first question is about, when you do e-commerce shopping, have you ever abandoned a basket because you're unsure about the delivery? Second question is about how important it is to have options and choices to really select your preferred delivery. And third question is about how ratings on delivery performance has influenced the choice of retailers. And the fourth question is about how important on a scale about the tracking and visibility and ability to change delivery preferences. So I see that we do have some votes now already, and yeah. It's looking very exciting, this. So we have, yeah, there are still people voting, so we need to wait a little bit longer for this. So we might give it half a minute more, and then we close the vote. So we've done the polling for 3 minutes. I think I'm going to end it now, and so we're moving on. And I'm now sharing the results. So the first question was about if you have abandoned the e-commerce shopping if you're unsure about delivery. And 79% said yes, while 21% said no. I don't think it was a clear guidance on that. Second question was a little bit more spread out about how important it is to have choices for the preferred delivery. And as you can see, they are very spread out from not so important to very important. Still, the majority has answered that it is quite important. Third question was about rating on the delivery performance, and that definitely seemed to have influenced the choice of retailers. Fourth question was about the ability to see where your goods are at the moment and able to change that. So some says no, this is not important at all, while the majority is still saying that this is very important. Justin, do you have any more comments about the results before we move on?
No, I think they just echo what we all think, actually. I'm surprised, actually, at the lower numbers in terms of having a choice, but I think possibly that's just me. If I order, I like to have something instantly and know when and where it's going to be there. So the results are really interesting.
Yeah, that's the same as me. I want it now. I really want it now, here and now. So thank you very much for this. Let's move on. So we have some statistics that we take and wanted to share from. This is a graph from the IMRG in UK. So this is actually UK consumer statistics, but I think it's pretty representative for a larger region as well. And it actually asks the same question. I mean, has the delivery performance influenced your choice of retail? And you know, even over a number of years, we definitely see that this is the case. And it's pretty logical, because if you want to, as you said, Justin, if you are doing a purchase, you want to know that you're going to get it. I mean, what's the point otherwise? Second statistic we wanted to share is also from IMRG in UK. And the thing is about, okay, what can we do about it? How can we make deliveries more convenient to people? And this is a B2C. And I won't go through all of this, but what it really says is that visibility, choices, ability to to know and really be able to control your delivery preferences is very important for consumers. We picked out also 4 pieces of statistics from MetaPack, and that they think is very important for the customer, a positive customer experience. The first one is really saying that, okay, people doesn't want to pay for deliveries anymore. I think that is what we already know. Second one is that 58% says that options are very important. And third one, 54% says that, okay, they want to know where the goods are, so tracking and visibility is of importance. And even 61% says that, a positive delivery experience might entice them to shop again with the same retailer. So this is really a proof point on this statistics that customer experience does have a very importance. And think about it, what we discussed before about the customer journey. Yeah, the delivery part is where you can actually make a very positive experience or a very bad experience. So I think to summarize, I think we can conclude that customer experience in last mile, it shows on different areas that is very, very important. Now, big questions that everybody has, what can we do about it? And here we have some good news, some really good news. There's a good recipe for this. In essence, it's about the leveraging the data and the insight that can lead to action. So data, information, and instructions. That is really a big way forward. And I'm now handing over to Justin.
Thank you, Mikael. So I think that the slide with the stats on before, which is talking around how much customer experience is of value, I think is probably really significant for retailers and for carriers alike. We know customer experience is really, really important. The next question is how do we deliver it so we can keep business coming our way? And then the next question is, well, how can we do that consistently and cost efficiently? If we invest in any sort of processes or technology, then ultimately that's going to affect our margins and our bottom line. So I think when we look at the technology aspect of this, and I'm obviously speaking from Honeywell, where our part of this would be to provide a technology platform that will help you deliver and be visible and more efficient in terms of delivering customer experience. To give you an example, I am a prolific shopper. I love shopping online. I spend far too much money doing it. And being both a consumer and on the commercial side of the business, when anybody comes to my house and delivers something, I think that they've all started to know me now because I reach out for the device and start to look and see if it's a Honeywell one, and if it's not, what make is it, and how does it feel and how does it look. And I had one particular experience. I'd ordered something that it was probably a premium item, and the chap arrived and he had a pair of shorts on, he had a cigarette in his mouth, and he presented a very old Apple device with a cracked screen to me, to just do the sign on glass part. And that for me just epitomized what I don't want to see as a consumer. It was a scrappy piece of technology. He didn't look the part. He didn't represent the brand. So as a whole, my customer experience was, it was sadly lacking. So yes, it was delivered on time, but ultimately I didn't get that whole brand experience that I necessarily wanted. And it just left me thinking that, when carriers or retailers are actually looking at the technology that's going to go on that last mile journey and how that's going to affect their customer experience, there's a huge amount of factors that come into play. So it's the physical device itself. How does it look? How does it feel? How is it actually going to last during a day? Is it fit for purpose? Can drivers see it in the sunlight? What happens if they drop it? How's it going to work when it goes in and out of the cab all day, getting charged and not charged? So that there's key physical, tangible things to think about, excuse me, with a particular device. And then also you have to look at how does that device then sort of link into the back end platforms. So how is it actually going to keep working consistently so that the driver has the latest up-to-date information that he needs, that he can actually continue to do his job all day, every day. So things like battery life need to be considered, reliability on the devices. If a device breaks or the battery drains and it's not charging, what does the driver do then? Does he have to revert to paper? Does he have to go back to his depot and get a new device? So there's an awful lot of factors to consider about how technology plays into that last mile and the consumer delivery experience. And the good news is we've just written a paper that talks around how you can actually best select a device based on what your needs are as a retailer or a carrier. And we'll be more than happy to share that with you. Once that's released, it's effectively it's effectively a checklist of everything that you need to perhaps think about and consider when you're looking at your device choices and how they interact with your platforms. The other point to consider as well are things like inefficient processes. I mentioned that if a device fails and a driver has to go back to the depot, you could effectively excuse me, in warehouses in DCs, for instance, we have stats that point to around 3,000 hours being lost due to inefficient processes. Yeah, and that's a huge amount of productivity that's being lost on a daily basis. And again, technology and devices can actually help you fill those gaps. The other points to consider as well, and all of these are listed in our paper as well, are things like fragmented technologies. Now, some of you might have a fleet that everybody has rugged devices. Some of you may have drivers that are using their own devices, or you might have a mixed estate of various different technologies out there. So that's going to lead to a very fragmented real estate of devices, which is going to affect how the software gets updated, how security gets updated, whether people are looking at the latest version of the software. So therefore, how are they operating on that last mile? Looking as well at things like data security, how secure are the devices, how secure is the data being pushed out, and things like the operating systems need to be considered. So in 2021, obviously with Windows on its way out, it's estimated that 85% of devices shipped in 2021 are going to be on the Android platform. So the good news is that, sorry, could you move forward to the next slide for me, please, Mikhail? Thank you. Is that Honeywell have been looking at all of these concerns and challenges that carriers and retailers have at last mile and how that plays into consumer experience. So we've actually designed a new platform called Mobility Edge, and the aim is to provide one single platform. So essentially, the heart of the device, that it will have the latest chips, it will have all the latest processing power, and that will all stay the same across all the devices on this new platform. So only the form factor will change. So it could either be an ultra rugged device or a rugged device, for instance. And what that will actually give us in very brief is the technology within those devices is going to allow you to accelerate deployments. So if you're pushing your latest updates out, or if you're pushing the latest software out to your drivers and the devices, you can do that quickly and easily because you only have to test it once and you can send it out once. So this is going to please your drivers because they're going to have the latest software, and it's equally going to please your customers because they're going to have, they're not going to have a buggy device essentially to sign on, or they're also going to be able to have the latest updates so that your driver can communicate with your customers as well. It's going to allow you to optimize business performance as well. Now, Mikhail spoke earlier around some of the data that we can get, and that's actually going to allow you to pull on that and provide you with actionable insights so that you can actually see how your drivers are operating, see where there's anomalies, where you're getting consistently failed deliveries, for instance, and it's going to allow you to make changes. So again, you can keep optimizing that customer experience along the way. And then the last 2 points, it's extending the life cycle. So with any rugged device, we expect them to last between 5 and 7 years, which is a lot longer than we would expect for a consumer device. So aside from the longevity of the device itself, the fact that it has, there are guarantees in place in certain areas, it also has accessories that will work with it over that life cycle. We're also extending our updates to the operating system up to 2025. So you've immediately got a good few years of operating system updates in there. And then equally, the latest version of Mobility Edge as well is actually providing some real security benefits in there as well, because with those latest OS updates, we're also allowing you the latest security updates within them as well. So both your data and your customer data is secure. So yeah, again, customer experience isn't necessarily just that last mile delivery. If you look at some of the security breaches we've been having lately, again, as customers, we're worried about our data. So again, this provides another level of security and protection. So with that, I'm going to hand back over to Mikhail, but the idea is with the Honeywell devices will actually provide you with a single platform that any software that's going to enhance customer experience can reliably work on.
Thank you, Justin. Sounds like really good stuff here. So that's very good. Now, we wanted to share some use case and ideas about how we can really create the good customer experience. This is a B2C example, but we do see very similar B2B example. It might not be the same when it comes to SLA times and so on. It might not be more exact the ETA time, but rather the accuracy that is important for B2B and so on. But the similar things would apply. So we have one online shopper called Marie in this case, and we have one driver that's going to deliver the parcels to Marie. And what's important for these guys? First of all, for Marie, what she says, "Oh, I'm happy as long as I know about the delivery." And looking on the other side, the driver side, Joe, he says, "I'm fine. I can do most things that customer wants as long as I know." And the key thing here is that what they all say, as long as I know, as long as I know. So they need to know, and the more information and instructions they have from each other, the better. So we're going to see how we can help with the software solutions and the data to really facilitate the interaction. The case, of course, starts with the purchase. As you may know, more and more people are purchasing using their mobile telephones, which means that this could happen anywhere, any place, at any time. And that's a little bit hard to control. And so that is. Now, first step, of course, is that you need to know a confirmation that you do have done the purchase. And you want to know when it's my delivery is coming. And as both me and Justin pointed out before, we want our deliveries rather now, very quickly and accurate. And this is an example how it can look like when she gets the timely notification about the delivery status and the delivery performance. Now, still, she might have reason to change things. She might not get home in time. She maybe want to redirect her deliveries to a survey point or make a new time slot, select a new time slot. So what she's doing at this stage is also saying that, if I'm not at home, I'm going to give authority to leave so that you can actually leave it somewhere outside my house. And she's going to give very specific instructions to the driver here. So it's the yellow house at the end of the road. And she says that, no, if I'm not at home, you can leave it outside. And yeah, she's even giving a very detailed instruction about at the car part or the garage, and also reminding to, please close the door when you're done. So that's a pretty natural thing. So, and then she can send this instruction back to the driver, so he will get it. Next step is, of course, to move on the driver side, and he needs to be notified about the changes that Marie has done, so he can actually see that what is required, and he then need to know what to do. Then he can use some of the magic in this device to really optimize today's route. Because there's so many changes. Normally, many delivery companies, they do it overnight optimization, and then the drivers are loading the vans in the morning, and then they take away. But what we see, there are so many changes during the day, so you might need to do a new route optimization. And this was Joe. He was able to calculate new ETIs and new and make a new route on the fly, so he can really hit his SLAs and really give a super high performance delivery. So once he's getting close, he can also ping back to Marie and says that, or actually the system does this automatically, says that I'm on my way, and she can see the live tracking. And as you can see, the delivery is due to arrive in 10 minutes. So she can really following online when it's about to arrive. And why this is a B2C example, in B2B, it might be more that you're communicating with an email to the company administrator, who can actually administrate what type of deliveries, or you actually talk about different docks at dock door handling and so on. But of course, the problems are the same. We want to know, and we want to have accurate information. We would like to be able to communicate. Once Joe is arriving to be able to do the delivery at Marie, he actually sees that she wants more things. She's a very demanding lady, so she also wants him to bring back the wrapping. So not only close the door, but also, he says that he can use the doorbell, and authority to leave is allowed as long as he closed the door. But he should also bring that back, the wrapping. So this is just one example of how detailed instructions, and this can come back to my introduction talk, where I actually had a guy carry in the food bags into my kitchen, which is a small thing, but a huge value for the consumer. When you have doing the delivery, you have the sign-on glass confirmation, so we can actually see the accurate timestamp and the date when the delivery is done. And if there are deviations, we have a way to record that, or we can also use photos to make sure that everything is documented and there is no open items left. And of course, afterwards, we want to check, and in most cases, we can't know unless we ask, and this is a very good way to ask about Marie, to give his rating about what she likes, and then we can improve, because if we know, we can improve until next time. And she's happy, of course. Also, Carl, sitting at the office, watching everything from the screen, he's also happy because he has all the data. He sees the dwell times, he sees the SLA performance, he sees the ETAs, he can do, and then he can do his magic with the data crunching and the inside analytics to really understand what is important. And this is, of course, a very, very important part of the whole puzzle, to have the accurate data. To summarize, this case is really about handling and the interaction, and even to take the step from the order to be able to show how we keep our promises, to be able to notify the people on the other side what we want and where we are at the moment. So with that, we take everything from the order down to the delivery, and afterwards the post-delivery, the rating and the analytics in a very smooth way. And we hand all this complexity over to the system to be able to manage this for us. So is this only theory? No, it's not. It's really full reality for many today. And one example is the pilot we did during last year together with Posti in Finland, where we actually made food bag deliveries. And this was, so you can order food bag, and within 2 hours you will get it delivered with a 15-minute time window slot. And the pickup was done in central Helsinki at the retail store, and then they were using these environmental scooters, as you see on the pictures, to drive out. And there was a very good result in this pilot, but it's very, very clear that you can't do these things with limited resources without having access to the data and the accurate informations and insight analytics and actionable data. It's really, really key in this whole process. Finally, we want to summarize, and I think we really concluded that customer experience has a very important. Yeah. So we definitely want to see both you and your customers very, very happy. And I think we can conclude that customer experience does have a big value for us. Really the recipe is really to leverage data for actionable insights. So again, the companies that have sponsored this session and invited to this session is PocketMobile, Honeywell, and Trimble MAPS. And we definitely would like to hear more about your experiences and what we can do for you to help you to improve that. So, Justin, any final word for you before we open the chat?
No, I think you've said it all. I just think just to add that there isn't one simple answer in terms of defining customer experience, that it is a journey, and it's a combination of devices, technology, software, but also really understanding what is important to your customer and what they really value in terms of that customer experience. And I think the statistics that you had with yourself and IMRG at the beginning just really start to build up and shape that picture, around choice and convenience being big factors in that, and visibility. So with that, do we want to open up for any questions from the audience? If you want to just type it, or if you raise your hand and we can take your questions. So one question from Romana. So what happens in the delivery process if there's a change on the route because of traffic? So I think that's for you, Mikael.
Yes, that's a very typical scenario, because even if you do an optimization of the route in the morning, things are changing. And we know, definitely myself, I live in Stockholm, and the traffic change from 1 hour to another, and can be terrible. So what you still, and of course the people on the other side doesn't know that, so you still need to keep your SLA time windows. And the good news that we do have our partner Trimble MAPS has really, really fantastic tools that are able to do a new route optimization based on the live traffic.
And then we've got another one around questioning how scalable the solution is. And again, I think in terms of software, I'll hand over to you, but it's probably just worth noting that obviously that solution can be pushed out to any type of hardware. And depending on if you have a mobility edge device, if you are using it in a warehouse, or if you're using it out on the road, you can be quite flexible with devices. So it actually allows you to push out to other devices in terms of peak, etc. as well, from that perspective. So I don't know, do you want to take on the scalable piece for the software, Mikael?
Yeah, of course. So the scalability can be viewed in many different ways. Of course, you can see it in the number of endpoint users, but it also is dependent on number of sessions you have open at the moment. And I don't think that we have hit the roof yet. So we have very, very big customers. We have customers that sometimes have up to 80,000 users. So and doing millions and scans per hours. So we haven't seen a performance issue. What is also important when talking about scalability is the resilience. So because sometimes you do need to work offline with this type of devices, and when you get back on the connectivity again, it is it's very important that you don't, everybody comes up again and launch DDoS attacks. But we haven't seen any issues so far.
And we have another question. How does it work with legacy backend systems?
So what we see out in the market, especially for larger enterprises, many of them have invested in IT since 1960s, and we all know how that has been. That you bought one IT systems, and then it wasn't good enough. So you bought another one and another one, and some of the bigger companies does have even up to hundreds of backend systems. And of course, coming with new software, we can't just ask them to replace that. It needs to function. So we have really open APIs enabled to really plug into existing backend systems and to really complement existing backend systems in a very smooth way.
Okay, and then we have one more, which is what do you consider to be the biggest challenge of a last mile delivery service? From a Honeywell perspective, I think that the biggest challenge, I would certainly say, is making that it's a first time delivery every time. It pleases the customer, but second to that as well is if you have to deliver something twice, then you're immediately doubling your cost. So if we can make accurate deliveries first time every time, then it's efficiencies and cost savings for the carriers. And then it goes without saying that you've got one very happy customer because you've actually delivered on your delivery promise.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you, and I think to add on to that is that the delivery is becoming more and more complex, and I think people are requiring more and more extra services, specific detail requirements, and it could be small things like authority to leave or so on, but the more complexity you handle, and if you think about it, let's say I'm a driver, I have maybe hundreds of stops per day, and I have different things to deliver. If I am on top of that's going to have several different services to add on as well. If you just multiply that, you're going to end up with thousands of different options, and that's a little bit difficult to keep track on. So yeah.
So, and then we have another question around how is analytics going to make an impact on the future of the logistics industry? I'll take that one on and then hand over to you. So we're seeing more and more around analytics being used from the top level back-end solutions around how networks are optimized and delivery models are changing from the big postal parcel networks, but even down to a driver level. For instance, we're starting to see some almost daily use cases. To give you an example, a postal operator I was talking to a few weeks ago were talking around, they were doing analysis on individual drivers' routes with permissions because of unions, etc. And what they were actually starting to see is there were certain anomalies in areas where deliveries weren't made for particular addresses, which meant, of course, that every time the parcels were coming back. And when they actually started to do, once they'd flagged these and benchmarked for these anomalies to flag up, they were then starting to see is that actually what was happening is that this particular address, it was set further back off the road, so the driver couldn't see it. It wasn't part of his drivable route because it was down a dead end, and so it kept getting missed. And they were then able to educate the driver, adapt his route slightly so that it was done in a slightly different way, and then immediately that the anomaly in the failed deliveries disappeared. And that's just a daily use case. So if you start to look at examples like that and upscale it to that much bigger picture, you can start to see how that's going to have an impact in terms of efficiencies and cost savings. And equally as well, those analytics will help us to start to determine what the customer experience is, what other services and input do they want. Is it all about first time every time, or are they now starting to look for other services? So come in and unpack your groceries, or coming in and I don't know, maybe my biggest thing is IKEA flat pack, but if you order it, they'll come in and put it up, as I know they do in some countries. So I think from a very practical level up to those great big back end, I think we're going to start to see some really interesting and task changing dynamics going on in that industry. So I'm really interested to see some of those changes we start to see. Mikko, anything to add?
I totally agree with everything you said. But just to add on that, I mean, it's very clear that companies, logistic companies that do enable to use analytics is really forward-leaning. I mean, it will really help them. And I can just give one example that we see. You can have the dwell time, which is the time from when you arrive at the stop and you do the delivery and when you hit the road again. So let's say I'm doing just a normal home delivery. I might have a dwell time of 1 minute, but if the delivery is in a multi-flat house and I need to walk up 6 stairs, it's going to take me about 5 minutes. And to use the analytics and maybe to add artificial intelligence into this, I can understand much more about where how I can calculate the dwell times. And that if I can calculate, for example, dwell times, I can calculate traffic and know things, then I can also make more accurate ETA time windows estimations. And that will give me a much better accuracy. I can use my resources better. So yeah, I mean, it's just clear that this is the way forward.
Well, I can't see any more questions. Any last questions from any of our audience? Just a reminder as well that the session has been recorded, so we will be sending you a link post-event if you want to go and recap on anything that's been covered today. Right, I can't see any more questions, Mikko, so I think we are probably good to close.
Yeah, thank you very much for participating. And if things pops up in your mind, please contact us. We'd love to speak to you more.
Yeah, and I echo that. And like we said, we will send out a link to everybody after this with a link to the recording as well. So thank you everybody for your time, and we hope to speak to you soon.